Tiny little lash.
I gotta work on my streams.
Oh,
This is what that sounds like.
Streams.
I gotta work on my streams. Oh dear.
Streams. Like what kind of streams?
My thought streams.
Thought
or my
stream.
habit streams, I guess.
Okay.
Well, I started reading Atomic Habits, and it's really good.
What is that?
It's I don't want to call it like a self-help book in that like getting it lumped into that sort of
Triteness.
the sort of very open-faced hustle of it, but it is very like it is self-development, let's say. And he talks about how I'm blanking on the author's name now, but he talks about how habits form, and how to work on habits.
Cool.
Unless I'm confusing that with a different book.
I mean, I think
there's The Power of Habit, and then there's Atomic Habits.
I'm
Power
sure
of
there's
Habits, that red book with or the yellow book with the red, like looks like a
I don't know
hamster wheel or something.
I don't know either of these books, but that's
yeah.
That's on me. That's not,
fine. I mean, this isn't a book. This isn't a breath of fresh book.
Yeah. Would that even be? Yeah. I don't know. My brain always tries really hard to like tune it to something else, and it's like, no, it's just that's it.
Yeah.
Movie. That's the only part you can change. That was like I was gonna have something to say and I didn't. I just realized like, well, hey Chelsea.
Oh, hey Victoria.
You know what I need?
What?
A breath of fresh movie.
Me too.
Okay, there we go.
That's a movie I like to see.
So here we are. This is a breath of fresh movie. Again, we're back.
We're back.
This would be episode...
We keep coming back.
We're
We're
back.
in the 60s, right?
We're in the 60s. This should be 61? Episode 61?
Is Nope our 60th episode?
Yes, it was.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
There's no significance to that.
No, it's just cool. That's, you know, it's good, easy to remember that for some reason. I don't know. I feel like
well,
that'd be easy for me to remember.
For 61 weeks, uninterrupted service, this podcast where me, Victoria Harley,
and me, Chelsea Pope.
She was taking a sip of water.
I'm sorry. I'm going to be thirsty
no,
today.
it's okay. Take sips.
Wait, but...
each week, we watch a movie neither one of us has ever seen, and then we talk about it. And we don't talk about everything, but we will talk about anything.
Yeah, so there's just be spoilers all over the place.
Look out.
Spoiler.
Yeah, so...
Oh my God.
61 weeks of uninterrupted service.
I like the way that sounds
like we're
very...
Con Edison.
Oh yeah, I was like, I don't know why it was like Comcast or some sort of
something bad. No, Comcast has never had uninterrupted service.
No, yeah,
always interrupted.
Or the anti-Comcast.
I'm not sure any service is experienced. I think we're the finest product there is at this moment as far as consistency.
I think did a good job.
I think I just cursed us.
Oh no! Oh my gosh! Yeah, knock on wood somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere. Today's episode is the 1990 comedy drama Postcards from the Edge, directed by Mike Nichols.
Woo!
But before we get into that, there's a couple bits of housekeeping I have. One is that we received an email. Oh my god!
Postcards from the Edge, and then also an email. I mean, how fitting is
it's close.
Emails are the postcards of the new millennia.
There's no pictures here, but this is from a fella. We get a lot of emails from fellas named Mike. I swear I'm not. These are not made up. I would choose different names if they were.
Yeah.
So this is from a fella named Mike who listened to our Before trilogy, and I should have read this last week, but I forgot. And I'm sorry, Mike. No, he sent this 11 days ago.
That's cool.
I always replied to them on the day, but I don't always remember to talk about it on the pod. So I'm sorry.
It's coming up now. It's only like a 1 week.
I'm full of all these apologies. Whatever. Who cares?
Stop it.
All right. From Mike. I loved your discussion on the Before trilogy. As someone who loves it and has watched each movie multiple times, I found your insights into the characters, their motivations, and how they all inform each other very fascinating. Thank you. I was happy to hear that you could call out the sort of not great but understandable characteristics of each character and how we can be empathetic, attracted, and repulsed by them while still identifying with them.
This is very, very well written.
I know. It's better than anything we said. I also agree that Midnight has the best scene, the argument. He said, I saw it in a theater a few years after my own marriage fell apart, and it took my breath away in its accuracy and realism. Yeah. But Sunset is the best of the trilogy. I did not want to share, not as a actually reply guy, hopefully, or I did want to share, a few Easter eggy things I love about the movie. You did talk a bit about Waking Life, and in Waking Life, we have our lovely couple continuing their dialogue in a post-coital state that would fall after the end of Before Sunset. Also, Linklater put a bunch of references to the novel Ulysses by James Joyce, a book that takes place over the course of one day. I did neglect to mention that. I remember reading that. Good call.
Yeah, man. You got a lot in though.
Thank you.
That is a fun. It's cool that he had that.
Yeah, because as it goes on, the first movie took place on June 16th, which is actually Bloomsday, the same day that Ulysses takes place.
Oh, interesting.
So there's this direct connection. The second movie has a reunion set at the Shakespeare and Company, and the original S&C was the first place brave enough to publish Ulysses. So there's all these like little spider webby, connections. This is a very informative email. I really appreciate this.
That makes a lot of sense with Richard Linklater.
Oh, and the reason they were brave enough is because the final scene of lovemaking in the novel at the time was considered very obscene. Notice we never actually get the lovemaking itself in any of the movies. And in the final movie, it takes place in Greece, which of course is where Odysseus was wandering around on his travels. Plus a bunch more obscure film references to Ulysses. I believe Celine talks about a movie whose title escapes me at the moment, but whose main characters share the same names with the characters in Ulysses. Anyway, he says, I think there's another reference to another movie. Anyway, he says, I wish my mind wasn't a blank. Google's not helping. Regardless.
You covered a lot of ground there.
You did great,
Mike.
dude. You did great,
You really went above and beyond there.
And he said, regardless, I offer this just for more fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it. He said,
fun.
You may have inspired a rewatch for me. Thanks for the pod.
Oh, that's very cool.
Thanks for writing. Oh
that's
my God.
Nice. Inspiring a rewatch. That's a good thing to do.
And I think he did follow up to say that the movie he couldn't remember was Journey to Italy by Rossellini.
Okay.
I guess Before Midnight took some inspiration there. So that's a nice thing. I'm glad we started with nice.
That was very nice.
One thing that's like a little less nice, and I don't have an action item here. It's just that I felt the need to share it because we watched Elvira, Mistress of the Dark.
Oh, yeah.
It was like our 19th episode, I think. I can't quite remember.
Right.
And there was a great character in there named Chastity Pariah, who was played by Edie McClurg.
Oh, okay.
And we love Edie McClurg. She's been in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles,
yes.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Well, evidently, and this is from 2 weeks ago, Ferris Bueller actor Edie McClurg is an elder abuse victim.
Oh my God.
Cousin alleges. Actor Edie McClurg and her caretaker were allegedly abused by a man who claimed to be the former's longtime friend. Basically, somebody came into her life and started involving himself. Now, the thing that I haven't mentioned here is that Edie McClurg has dementia and has been dealing with that for a number of years. And I don't have an action item here. All I gotta say is that
just
she made us laugh.
Yeah.
And she is also in one of these kind of conservatorships, similar to, the thing that we're all now familiar with, thanks to, Britney Spears. But there are a lot of people in these situations and they get forgotten about. And, it makes me incredibly sad because she was just, what a joy to watch on screen.
Yeah.
And I wasn't aware of this. And I just felt like
wasn't
I just wanted to boost the story and let people know. I personally am not sure what we can do for her other than just...
How did you come across this?
Well, because
I certainly haven't seen it on the...
Yeah. You know what? It was Steve Martin's birthday recently. And I was watching that clip of where he's like, you can give me a fucking automobile and a fucking butt, and he's losing his mind at the auto rental counter at the airport. And she's that really rosy-cheeked, smiling customer service rep,
iconic
May
acting.
I see your rental agreement?
Yes, that's great.
And I think, it just led me down like a little bit of a rabbit hole because I'm like, Edie McClurg is what a great scene partner. And when her name came up, I saw this story and I was just like, oh shit. Like it was kind of.
Oh my God.
So, it's not exactly a new story. Like I said, it's about 2 weeks old. I wasn't.
No, but that's, I do appreciate you bringing that up because
that is. Anyway, it's sad and
good to boost.
Yeah,
Not something I was aware of.
If there's anyone who has anything they can do or even if it's what's going on.
So it's a conservatorship.
Well,
so that's what makes it difficult for her
in,
to separate from that.
Yeah, like the issue is that her family filed for conservatorship back in 2019 because of her dementia. I don't know the whole story. I'm not doing a good job, but I think essentially somebody befriended her knowing that she was going to get worse and used his position to kind of insert himself and frankly just endanger her and, take money and things like that. I don't know everything. I guess they put like a restraining order against the guy and, action has been taken. She's not trapped, somewhere, but it's just another like one of these stories where there are all these little threads that stick out of all of our all the things we talk about on this show. And, some are fun, some are not. And I love her. And I think,
thanks for
thoughts and
bringing
prayers.
that up. I don't know, but it is something that is, even if we should be talking about that more, because that is an issue.
Yeah,
about how we treat the elderly.
Well, and that's somebody who
my phone went off. I initially had scheduled that Vegas buffet the wrong date, and it's reminding me for the wrong date.
Awesome.
So
God, I could go for Vegas buffet.
Sorry, that's such a so unrelated to just my phone going off.
It is unrelated, but that's okay. The whole thing is just to say, take care of the elders, like in your life. Like, don't,
and yes,
respect people, and
I think this is actually related to her.
It is
that weird, or is that too tacky for me to be like?
No.
Speaking of elders in need of care,
I mean, let's segue. Because we're talking about a very personal, generational story that involves a whole lot of different, and involves fame, right? And we're talking about Postcards from the Edge.
There
as
you go.
We said, which is, to just give a simple log line. A substance-addicted actress tries to look on the bright side, even as she is forced to move back in with her mother to avoid unemployment. Mm-hmm. That's our movie. What did you think?
I enjoyed it. I almost thought it was going to be heavier fare going into it because of what they're dealing with. It caught me off guard how lighthearted the film. I mean, not that there aren't definitely moments of more, serious. I mean, they take all the scenes seriously too. Like the scenes are all committed. I want to say it's not dismissive.
That feeling like of surprise. That's interesting. That's the observation. I don't want to like cut you off. I just was thinking about, it was an observation made by a lot of people I read who felt, this started as a movie about recovery from addiction, and then it kind of turned into like a comedy of manners.
Yeah, I think it was interesting. Yeah, it felt like this was almost some sort of, like if I was watching this go into a series about this woman's recovery and how that's related to the business. I
feel like
I thought it was going to be a little more encapsulated, almost like a not 28 days later, 28 days situation, or something that's a little more, I think,
like a condensed timeline.
Yeah.
I feel like Postcards from the Edge is going to totally get made into a series now that you've said that.
I think
like
I feel like the pacing
wings
of that felt as though it would be something that they turn a la like Irma Vep into.
Yeah, I'm like, of course,
a series.
I'm like, why haven't they done that yet? I'm surprised.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'd be surprised if that hadn't been put out there in some way.
Maybe it's in development hell or something. Because I mean, God, they did Grey Gardens, and I felt like there were parts of this that reminded me a bit of Grey Gardens.
There is that relationship balance and the so feeling beholden or having that overbearing parent, or a parent that's caught in sort of their glory days type of thing, and then the daughter that's sort of resentful but also reverent of it as well. That was very Grey Gardens, I think, about that dynamic.
Yeah, and I feel like there were the scenes. I mean, one thing, there were so many scenes that where I feel like Shirley MacLaine, who plays the mother, Doris, is like, she's talking on her own steam. She's just fully on her own path, and it's like if she hears her daughter Suzanne, played by Meryl Streep, it's like she's not registering it.
Right.
Like she has this kind of like, and it reminds me of like every kind of matriarchal figure, like whether it's Lucille Bluth or, and not exactly the same, but just that kind of hard-won confidence because you've been beat the fuck up by stupid shit before.
Right.
Like, and you just don't have, you want the best for your daughter, but you also don't have time to entertain, like.
Yeah, she has that moment when she's telling Suzanne, this is like essentially get over it.
Yeah, like have some class.
Like you gotta let it go. Like,
it's best not to wallow in these things.
Yeah,
it's like, well, of course it's not best, but thinking about early on, it did feel much more like, I thought also serious, because there was like strange dream sequences, like when she walks down that hallway of posters, and it's all of those people who have overdosed, like Elvis and Marilyn Monroe and Billie Holiday, John Belushi, who of course was a close friend of Carrie Fisher's.
Right.
Lenny Bruce is up there. And I didn't get this watching it, but I guess the nurse is Nancy Reagan, kind of like a Just Say No. I missed that.
I would miss that too initially, but that makes sense. I think, what else too, like from the initial watch, I was like, this feels something sort of seminal for like what we see more now, like Fleabag. I felt like in terms of Fleabag is the more, it's a generations later, more reflective of the times tone, I think. Whereas with Postcards, it's like really getting to read Carrie Fisher's diary in a sense, but like I feel like we're really seeing like a hardline POV of someone. I felt like this comes off like such a chance to say from my own perspective, this is what I've been this is the dealt with, or my perspective of the world, and this is my humor about it. Like I think there's sort of this like very comedian self-awareness about it.
Oh yeah, there's some really razor sharp lines that are just tossed away, right? Like with
it's very fast-paced dialogue too.
And I saw an interview with Meryl Streep, and she was talking about how like they were like, oh, did you do much homework to prepare for this? And she sort of laughed and was like, well, not really. And that's not to disrespect the project. She was like, I really recognize that character as like a cynical part of myself. Like I was like, oh, I like this girl, or I know her. I'm not going to try to do an impression of Carrie Fisher. Yeah. Also, as much as people like to put this semi-autobiographical label on it, and I think the book certainly is more rooted in autobiography or semi-auto, but the book is also like it's a plotless collection of different missives. Oh,
this is certainly not a literal carbon copy. You can see Meryl's putting her own individual flavor to it, and the same with Shirley MacLaine as well. Like I think there's something about watching, and like we've talked about this before, we're watching her. She similarly exudes this sort of very distinct confident energy that is like I feel like it's just so that is what Shirley does.
Oh yeah.
And she like commands it, and I think it puts a different flavor on it. It's not like you can't look at Shirley MacLaine in this movie and think like, oh, this is just like a carbon copy of what Debbie Reynolds was probably like. No, this doesn't feel like that. It feels like they really took these characters and made them into what felt real for them.
Yeah, and again, Carrie Fisher, I didn't mention this, but Carrie Fisher wrote the screenplay. I think we implied.
Oh yeah, so this is very much sort of
We implied it. We didn't flat out say.
You didn't know that already?
Okay, she wrote the book. And she was approached to write that book because right when she got out of rehab, she wrote a piece or did an interview in Esquire, which led to this invitation to write this book. And then Mike Nichols and various other people, I think, were kind of interested in doing a film about recovery and approached her about adapting it. But then when she sat down to do it, she's like, well, of course I had to create a story because there was really no story in the book. And I had to approach it. It's a whole new piece of work. It has some similar themes, but like really... there's not a ton like in common. It's like thematically it's the same. What I think I definitely went in kind of thinking, oh, is this what, like what you said, like, are we reading her diary right now? Is this like, how much of this is real? And I must admit, I'm a little embarrassed that maybe I assumed that it must be so much rooted in her experience. And that's what a lot of people assumed. But I saw this interview with Carrie Fisher it's like 1990, and she said something very specific about how I wrote about a mother actress and a daughter actress. I'm not shocked that people think it's about me and my mother. It's easier for them to think I have no imagination for language, just a tape recorder with endless batteries.
Oh, that's, I think that's more than valid. But at the same time,
not to like shoot down your, what
I don't feel shot down because I think it's I don't think
you have to know
that this is a reflection of her life to a certain capacity, but obviously in terms of her being able to, I can understand feeling like it's very reductive because it discredits the quality of the actual storytelling in this film because it is a very tight sort of arc of that relationship and like the sort of bookends, and there's a lot of parallels in the beginning and the end, and there's a lot of comedic banter that's like,
it's a good watch.
It sounds written in a good way.
Yeah.
It's not.
No, it moves quick. It's a good watch. It's very witty. And I think the first part, not that it's exclusive to the beginning, but all of the stuff with her on set felt very real and surreal, like in the way that God, there were so many moments that were clearly there to remind you that films are fake.
Did it give you at any point like a Pedro Almodovar vibe?
Yeah,
especially
totally.
we're dealing with these themes with the mom and daughter. We've seen these sort of very meta
it's
film
so
shots.
like high heels.
Kind of reminded me of that the Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down with that film set and this thematically like reflecting things. And
yeah, I think it's funny. I've been like sitting here trying to figure out what this has been reminding me of, and I think that is it.
Yeah.
Because I've like, especially that scene where they're with her agent, and Doris is just going a mile a minute, and Suzanne's sitting there just like, oh my God, like
this reminds me of that. Yeah, it's also high heels, also the mom and Parallel Mothers.
Yeah,
you know?
right. Oh my gosh,
yeah.
right. God, there's so much of that. And that's like the other thing about this. It's like, okay, maybe it's not, Nichols also was defending this idea because he says Carrie doesn't draw in her life any more than Flaubert did. It's just that his life wasn't as well known. So, of course we have opportunities to like, and there's kind of this like bit of gossip that floats around the movie, but I think they know that and they're playing with it because, of course my ears perked up when they were like, when she's like, would you rather have Lana Turner for a mother or Joan Crawford? And she's like, are these the options?
No, these are great. I mean, these are such great retorts. Like, I think Meryl Streep does such a good job of playing them very...
She's great.
It has that, the tone, it caught me off guard. I would say ultimately in a good way how this felt almost like I was watching like the extended pilot of like an HBO comedy or something. It had that vibe.
No, you're right. I mean, it's funny that you brought up Irma Vep because I was like, that was of course the film about filmmaking, but the series feels a little bit like this, or at least the first part of this movie. I mean, I also felt like there were a couple of moments, just to that Almodovar thing, there was another dubbing scene, right?
Yeah.
Like a scene where she's watching herself and she's emotional and she's trying to dub her own lines and
I was like, this feels very, very like
holy shit
related to
there's
it.
some interest.
Like if there was a double feature with these,
I would go
with this, and
I would absolutely go. I just got to give a quick rundown of the cast because there's so many good people. Of course, we mentioned Meryl Streep, Shirley MacLaine. Okay, I don't like Dennis Quaid, but I mean,
he did a good job playing a scumbag.
He was pretty good.
Spoiler alert!
He's a scumbag.
Spoiler alert!
I mean, it's really all he should be.
It's pretty obvious, I think, from the top. Like it kind of, I feel like you see the turn coming pretty quick.
It's not a shock. No,
but yeah.
Gene Hackman, Richard Dreyfuss, who is kind of my favorite. The doctor who pumped her stomach.
Oh yeah, he had that Silver Fox quality for sure.
Totally would have gone out on a date with that guy.
It's interesting.
Rob Reiner, Annette Bening, Oliver Platt, who's got the baby face. Like, wow, it's incredible. And I had just been watching him in The Bear or something. And I'm
right, is he in The Bear?
He has a small role in it. Yeah, he's great.
He's in so much.
And Mary Wicks is the grandmother who I loved her so much. So and Mary Wicks has been in a lot of.
She felt like very much like she just wandered in from like doing some sort of Neil Simon play or something.
Yeah.
She felt very much. She did a lot in that world of like, wow, you're just like
and walking around like a chicken.
There you go. Yeah, doing all that analogy talk.
She feels like she walked off of like she is character actress. Like with every kind, she's got her SAG card, like that
so
woman.
It feels very much like
that woman works.
It feels like a very comedy statement about like Meryl coming from Shirley, coming from that woman. Like there's this sort of different iteration of like a performance woman.
Well, and it's always gratifying, right, for the youngest to see see your mother have a mother or have a father,
and see how they kind of juxtapose that, and now you're kind of
like, now they're the child.
Now personality types are just ricocheting back and forth between generations.
It's incredible. So what a great cast. And like and just a little funny note is Annette Bening, she's playing a contemporary of Meryl Streep's, but she will eventually become Shirley MacLaine's sister-in-law because she married Warren Beatty,
right?
So and
I had to look up after if that happened before or after this movie.
Yeah.
I was like,
way after,
timeline wise.
Yeah, well, not way after, but after. But it's kind of wild because I I didn't know Shirley MacLaine and Warren Beatty were like brother and sister until like a year ago. And it still is something I feel the need to tell people.
Well, I got confused because when I saw Annette Bening, it was like, oh yeah, because she's Shirley MacLaine's daughter. And I was like, wait, no,
she's
it's not.
Sister-in-law.
Yes, right. Okay.
She's younger.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Younger than Warren.
No.
Yeah. Quite a bit younger.
Yeah.
But we don't care. Speaking of just like famous mother and daughters, there were a lot of actresses who wanted to be Doris and wanted Janet Leigh wanted to be Doris so that her daughter Jamie Lee Curtis could be Suzanne. This is sort of sad. Lee Remick was considered for Doris and ended up being diagnosed with terminal cancer and couldn't do it. And that's just sad because, God, not only do you get terrible news, but you lose a great job. You know, like how much do you hate yourself?
Oh my God.
I'm sorry. I mean, just like
sucks for her.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, I would. Yeah. I mean, hopefully that wasn't the case. I hope Lee Remick was surrounded by people who loved her and cared about her, and you know that she went peacefully. But
this is dark.
It's dark. This shit's dark.
This whole episode.
This is a dark episode. And then Debbie Reynolds herself, Carrie Fisher's mother, wanted to be Doris.
Wow.
Which that wouldn't have. Certainly, that would have dispelled the idea that this was about them.
Yeah, right. It's really not helping Carrie's argument.
Yeah,
don't fully associate this.
No,
just already such a. I don't know. I'm sorry. It's a little bit of an unfair ask, and you can't.
You can't. No.
Yeah.
And Mike Nichols, of course, was like, "We got Shirley. We got Shirley MacLaine."
Yeah. It was great casting.
Oh God, and he just told her, which apparently in Debbie Reynolds' memoir, she said that Mike said to her, "You're just not right for the part."
Oh,
so, which
really?
is kind of a nice compliment, right? You know, like you're too, which is actually the truth. Like, I mean, Debbie Reynolds did not have a drinking problem like this, not that we know of anyway.
Right.
And she and Carrie Fisher did not fight like this, you know. And in that same interview I was alluding to earlier, from like the 90s, Carrie Fisher mentioned like we have to. It's not interesting to watch two people who get along, and by the end of the movie, they get along better.
Yeah.
There's nothing interesting about that. Like, so yes, we have to invent some things. We have to, inject drama into it.
Right.
And man, there's some drama in this.
Yeah.
I mean, that line about it twirled up. I fucking died when I heard that.
She's great. I mean, her performance is just like, full to a 10.
Oh my gosh.
Not like loud to a 10.
No,
but like
just good.
Yeah.
Evidently at the read through, like the first, the read through for the whole cast, which, actually I'm not, I don't act. So I had to sort of learn or be reminded of this, but it's like, right, that's really the only time you have everybody together.
Yeah.
And you go from top to bottom and you feel that whole energy. The rest of the time you're trying to like reconnect to that moment, right? Because you're doing everything out of order and you're trying to make it fresh. And, so Meryl Streep herself, she said like, I love the read through. That's like the best part. It's the best part of the whole thing.
You can really feel the pace of where things are at.
But she said that song that Shirley MacLaine does, which is a Sondheim song, by the way. She was like, she had those moves at the read through.
So good. And it was so like lived in, that performance.
Yeah. So lived in. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. And, I guess Meryl Streep was like, it really set a tone that was good for reflecting the film. It put me in a place. Meryl Streep did do all her own singing in this, though.
Right? Yeah, I enjoyed that. I was like, yes,
she's not bad.
Well, we know that. We see Mamma Mia.
Yeah, exactly. What else?
I guess Into the Woods. I don't know. I guess.
Oh yeah, no, totally.
Yeah.
Let's see. Carrie Fisher did admit that the grandmother character might have been the closest thing to reality. And I'm like, okay, I'll take it.
Yeah.
What else have I got? Okay, so this was produced and distributed by Columbia Pictures. Just a few locations. The opening scene, which is like this movie set drama thing, was I'm gonna fuck this up. Terra Ana Bluffs in Rancho Palos Verdes, California. The house that most of it was shot in is at 243rd.
Oh, great. Let's go.
243 Delfern Drive in the Holmby Hills area of LA. So if you want to go, check it out. 243 Delfern Drive.
Let's go.
The house, when they were filming at it, was owned by an actress named Connie Stevens, who was once also married to Eddie Fisher, like Debbie Reynolds.
Interesting.
There's too many...
It's a small world.
Oh my God. Okay. And then all these scenes where they're on set were shot on the back lot of Warner Brothers. And,
gotcha.
Very much probably see storefronts that you'll see in Gilmore Girls. You know what I mean?
Oh, awesome.
Like it's that same,
Yeah.
it's the same 4 street corners or whatever.
Right.
It's worth mentioning that Streep and McClane are only 15 years apart in age.
Right. Yeah,
Creative license.
Yeah.
That's all.
Noticed that as well. But I think
just saying.
Yeah.
That song, I'm Still Here, that Shirley MacLaine performs, that lived-in performance. Stephen Sondheim did actually, I guess, write special lyrics for MacLaine herself to sing.
Oh, wow.
So there's a little Sondheim thread in here, and I like that.
Oh, we get like a little postcards edit.
Yeah, I think that's cool.
Yeah.
Like very cool. Also, somebody has posited the idea that this movie was somewhat therapeutic for Mike Nichols because he had just made Working Girl with Melanie Griffith, who was battling cocaine addiction.
Oh,
and
snap.
to the point where she would be so intoxicated that she couldn't deliver lines, and she ended up being fined like $75,000 by the studio. I mean, it was a big issue.
Yeah.
And
so that's pretty close to home.
Right. And Melanie Griffith also has a famous mother, Tippi Hedren.
Wow.
So it's like,
yeah.
And had to check into rehab.
So that's
and,
kind of that. There's that parallel going on.
So there's so much. And so, I guess the DP who worked on Working Girl also worked on Postcards from the Edge and was like, yeah, I think Mike needed
He's working
this.
out. He's working
some shit out. Yeah.
This is his
actually
diary entry, actually.
Yes, that's the truth. It's really more about Mike Nichols and Melanie Griffith than it is about Carrie Fisher.
That's
Debbie Reynolds.
fascinating to know.
Yeah, I know, right? And when Fisher and Nichols were in development for this, he suggested that she really studied the film The Bad and the Beautiful from 1952, directed by Vincente Minnelli. And I got to tell you, that is a great movie.
You've seen it?
Oh,
okay.
yeah. And it is
so we're never going to do it.
No.
Sorry,
well,
guys.
we could do it for a breather. It's a great movie.
See.
I love movies about Hollywood that are very
Sure.
cynical, like Sunset Boulevard. And
this came out in the 50s, too.
Yeah,
I'd be
50s.
interested to see one
it's good.
from that time.
Oh, you'd love it. It's great.
Yeah.
Really good cast.
Yeah.
Very, very cynical. Fucking great. So I think and also Vincente Minnelli, very Judy Garland. And then Liza Minnelli, when she saw this movie, was like, oh, this is very accurate. Like, Liza loved that. Like, so I don't know. There's just a lot of, again, all these weird little webs and things.
Yeah.
One important question. Would you go out with the doctor who pumped your stomach?
I mean, I get her reaction, honestly, in the moment, because that is kind of a weird thing. But it's also why not? He's cute.
He was kind of cute.
But it's also I don't know. It is a little weird. It's oh, you pumped my stomach.
You were inside me.
Well, just
no, I know.
As that's happening, he's I'm gonna ask this girl out.
Right.
Well,
that is a little inappropriate, and her answer is legitimate because
not that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you're cute Richard Dreyfuss in this,
I mean, he was kind of cute.
I'm not gonna say no. There wasn't. There was that vibe of oh, they'll eventually go on.
He'll wait
on a date.
He said he'll wait.
Yeah. I mean, I'm wow. I'm
ooh,
okay,
all right,
okay.
Didn't know.
Well, I mean, we watched Asshole City with Dennis Quaid. Although, I think he actually played it pretty natural. It must come naturally or something. I don't know. We're just hating on him without any context. But.
I mean, I have plenty of context.
Sure.
No, I'm not a fan of Dennis Quaid.
But we haven't had had a dialogue about it on the podcast.
No, because we didn't watch Jaws 3D together.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to speak anymore again.
I've just always hated him since Parent Trap because what kind of parents just divvy up kids and say, and we're done.
Yeah,
that's why I hate Dennis Quaid.
I'll never tell you. Yeah,
that's why I hate Dennis Quaid. Of course, he was
Dennis Quaid. Just a little. He has a podcast, or he did, called The Denissance. So I'm just gonna leave it there.
Hey, if you got a good name pun,
is it good? I'm not sure that's the right word.
No, but he's so smarmy.
Oh, he's so smarmy.
He's so smart. He gets on her case so hard. I
mean, not to. I'm not. I don't want to say there was no purpose for him in there, but at times I did question. I felt like it feels sort of gratuitous. I don't.
Yeah.
I didn't need a romantic side story.
Again, felt like it was this would be a series kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think Alec Baldwin was considered for that role, which I don't know why I brought up.
That could have been endearing. I feel like that would have I could see the see the suave.
Alec Baldwin, 1990, absolutely.
Right.
That was his prime. Yeah.
You know?
It's just so much. Well, he's just fallen off some kind of deep end.
Sure.
That guy.
It's unfortunate circumstances.
Sad
as of late.
episode.
This is
sad
such a
episode.
negative episode.
I'm
Oh my
good
God.
with it. Let's just lean into it.
All right.
So speaking of some negativity, I have some receptions and reviews we can argue with.
All right.
It was released September 12th, 1990. Ebert was disappointed because he said it never really delivers on the subject of recovery from addiction. He felt the scenes were incomplete and the film is really preoccupied with the gossip. Like, we're encouraged to wonder how many parallels there are.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't think he's wrong.
He's not wrong.
I don't think he's wrong.
Hal, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
Hal Hinson of the Washington Post said, Nichols is finally attuned to the natural surreality of a movie set. But when he moves away from the showbiz satire and concentrates on the mother-daughter relationship, the movie falters. Although he did point out that this is Meryl Streep really showing off her comic chops, because up to this she had done lots of very sad, weepy stuff, like Sophie's Choice and A Cry in the Dark.
This is a good role for her.
She's so good in this. She's such a... And they were just pointing out, we suspected this, but she's proving she's great with comedy too.
Right.
So this is part of that versatility thing we always say about Meryl, right? It's like, and that's, just to diverge a little bit, she comes from a repertory theater background, which, you carry a bunch of characters inside you and bring them forth depending on the roles.
Right.
You have a version of a wicked woman, or you have a version of a worrying mother, or you have a version of, whatever it is. And I thought that was... as much as, because she seemed, she also seems kind of humble despite all the accolades. Like, she really does seem like a woman that just would be cool to hang out with.
Absolutely.
So it's great for that. He also, Hal Hinson, the WAPO, also felt that it turns maudlin at the end. And I can sort of see that, ends with a musical number, or not musical, but it ends with a song. It's kind of, suddenly we're in kind of like...
Yeah, we do spend a lot of the movie in her career world.
That's true.
As or her sort of a way, like we don't. It's not all mommy daughter stuff all the way. No. It's actually it was more sparse than I expected. I thought it was going to come up a lot more.
No, and it's funny because these two reviewers weren't crazy about that, but I think what was nice was to read from Peter Travers. I tried to find a woman who review. It was hard. But Peter Travers said that Fisher neatly skewers Hollywood pretension. And by the end, Suzanne forges a tentative truce with her mother instead of defining herself through a man. Judged on the sexist terms of the most recent Hollywood fair, Postcards is revolutionary. And I'm kind of inclined to, I like that take, because I think everybody's kind of complaining about this, like, oh, but the mother-daughter thing, and oh, this, and it's like, well, maybe it's about what it's not about, rather than what it is about.
Yeah.
And I was glad to just have that sort of...
Yeah, because it's nice that it isn't just like, oh, well, then she just gets to the doctor and everything's fine, or even though it's implied they'll maybe at least go on a date, but she sets like a boundary of wanting to like...
Yeah, which is like...
take care of herself.
That's treated as a happy ending. Yeah. It reminds me of Little Women.
And the mom also celebrating the daughter, like the mom and daughter having
mutual respect for each other.
This love that's a through line and prevails at the end. We see so many of, whether it's like in hagsploitation or whatever, you see the aging beauty, envious of the youth, or there's just this butting of heads that just, or the whole 2 and 11, the mommy dearest.
I'm also thinking about this McCurdy memoir.
Oh yeah, there's always just such that the through line of contention between mothers and daughters in the industry. Yeah, and to see that there's some sort of
I believe there's a line in this film about like, how could I compete with you? What if one of us won? There's kind of this understanding that like we shouldn't allow ourselves to be locked into this kind of thing because it's bad for both of us. It's not good for anybody.
This back and forth of
and I think there's a lot of sort of quote unquote feuds and things that people love to just read stories about the rich. Yeah. And the newspapers are ready to, here you go. Yeah. So we'd rather believe the legend, right, than the truth. And I think there was probably a lot of understandable weariness maybe promoting this movie and answering the same kind of questions over and over again. I would like to share briefly just some other movies that were out around the same time. a lot of them I was like, I would never see any of these because I didn't even know. Okay, there's Repossessed, Hardware, White Hunter, Black Heart, State of Grace, The Rain Killer, Blood Salvage, Grim Prairie Tales, I'm sorry, Death Warrant. But then a week later, Goodfellas came out.
Oh, okay.
And Miller's Crossing. And I'm like, those were basically the two good things at the back end of 1990. The things that were number one at the box office included Ghost. Postcards was number 2, so it did well, despite all these people being like, I don't know. Presumed Innocent was number 3, Flatliners number 4, and Darkman number 5, to just give people a sense of what was...
Flatliners is that?
Flatliners.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
you remember that show?
Yeah.
In our director's chair this week, Mike Nichols.
Right.
Who, I mean... We know about Mike Nichols.
Yeah, we've talked about him.
Because we've talked about Elaine May.
Yeah.
A lot.
Indeed.
And we haven't done a Mike Nichols movie. Have we?
Yeah, I thought we had.
Had we?
Have we not done it?
I don't think we have. Like, I'm because there's things I know.
I just feel like we talked about him so much, though.
But we did through Elaine May.
Right.
But, like, we haven't looked at
I'm
any
so
of his
sick
movies.
of this guy. Oh, my God.
He does get a lot. I mean, to be honest, like, the amount of detail I'm about to share, it's like, I didn't have near this
Haven't
much.
we given this guy enough?
I know. I was like, I didn't have near this much about Elaine May simply because she doesn't want it to exist.
Well, no, but that's not, I mean, yeah.
He's been profiled.
prolific.
He, I have his book. I haven't finished it, though. Anyway, Mike Nichols was born Igor Mikhail Pachowski.
Okay.
I hope I said that right. He was born in Berlin, Germany in 1931. His mother, Brigitte Landauer, was a German Jewish woman, and his father, Pavel Pachowski, was a physician. His maternal grandfather, Gustav Landauer, was a theorist on anarchism.
Okay.
Which I'm like, guy who gets into improv comes from anarchistic roots. Interesting.
All right.
His grandmother, Hedwig Lachmann, was also an author, and I just love the name Hedwig. And also, okay, this is crazy in his family. Through his mother, Nichols is a third cousin twice removed of Albert Einstein. So dude's got some, like, interesting genealogy.
Good for him.
Yeah. When he was 4 years old, he was left permanently hairless after a botched whooping cough vaccine. And so he wore a wig and fake eyebrows. His entire life.
Hairless?
He was hairless.
Wow.
I did not know this.
I guess I've never really looked at
I just thought he was really
pictures of
clean
him.
shaven, you know,
Yeah.
and those because he does kind of have a little bit of a baby face on some of those like photos with Elaine May. And
I
I'm
guess
like,
I've never really taken a hard look at the
I
guy.
never took a hard look either, and he's got good wig work, I guess.
Good
The wigs
eyebrow
look
work.
Good well, he's doing it since he was 4 years old, so
Yeah.
like you get good at it. But I had no idea, and it's not an important detail, but damn, I know
it's
it kind of
that's
is
an interesting fact.
It is.
It's not a dour fact.
No,
so
no,
it's
and
nice.
we're
It's
not-
a little more lighthearted.
I mean, good for him.
Yeah, good for him.
Okay,
Less of a pain, honestly. Is it less shower drain issues?
I mean, I wouldn't. I'd be okay, maybe. I don't know. I like my red hair though. So again, he was born in Germany, but we all know things got tough there. In April 1939, the Nazis began arresting Jews in Berlin. And at that point, that's when the family decided to send the 7-year-old Mikhail and his 3-year-old brother Robert to the United States to be with their father, who had immigrated a little bit ahead of them. Their mother later escaped through Italy, so everybody was reunited.
wow.
They all got out. They were reunited together in New York City. At that point, his father changed his name to Paul Nichols, because Pavel Nikolaevich. It's a lot. And he's like, and he quickly established a medical practice. Although I did learn that he, before he got his medical license in the United States, one of his first jobs was working for a union, sort of in the health thing. He was taking x-rays of people in the union, but I guess all that exposure to the radiation, they didn't really know what they were doing. So it ended up contributing to him dying like young.
Wow.
So it's kind of fucked up. Young Mike Nichols attended PS 87 in Manhattan. He then attended the Walden School, which is a private progressive school, and I can only imagine if it's called the Walden School. Like go out into Central Park today. He did attend NYU for a little bit, but then drops out. In 1950, he enrolls in the pre-med program at the University of Chicago. However, he's still interested in theater, and he's taking other kinds of gigs. Like in 1953, he starts working as an announcer of a classical radio station, WFMT, where he was asked to program a Saturday night folk music program called The Midnight Special, which was a mixture of like satire, folk music, show tunes, farce. This program is still on the air. Like that's how good a format that dude established.
Yeah.
Still on, same time, same place.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah. Now, meeting Elaine May happens at the University of Chicago. And as far as I'm concerned, this is like when his life begins. I mean, I'm sorry. I just, and
I don't know. We covered a lot of ground before that.
he had a lot.
So.
He had a lot going on. I'm not denying it, but
Right.
I'm like, nope, it begins with Elaine. He was acting in a play and he saw her while he was on stage. She was sitting in the first row and they made eye contact. And that was it. But later on, they, serendipitously ran into each other in a train station. And he started talking to her in kind of like a foreign accent, like he was a spy. And she did it right back.
That's fun.
And I'm like, God damn, I love that.
Where's that biopic?
I know. Oh my God. They'll ruin it though. They'll get it wrong.
Yeah, unless they do like cool stuff where they focus on those moments of chemistry, because that would be a fun thing to have gotten to.
And they were,
watch.
it is worth mentioning, they were briefly romantically involved. And I have to imagine that like being vulnerable on that level could only strengthen. I mean, everyone said he got so much better at improv after he met her. That said, he went to NYC for a little bit. He went back to New York to train in method acting with Lee Strasberg, but he couldn't get any stage work. So he goes back to Chicago. There's a lot of like back and forth. And he joins the Compass Players. We talked about them on a couple of our Elaine May episodes. And that's like mid 50s. This is where, Del Close was a part of this and like Elaine May and a bunch of other, seminally important, whatever. And this is where improvisation was, I don't know, not born, but the Second City thing, right?
Yeah.
It all comes out of Compass Players and University of Chicago just being into that. And so, of course, they developed this great chemistry and they formed the duo Nichols and May, which, they record 3 Grammy-nominated albums that do incredibly well. They take over Broadway. I mean, they're the greatest thing. And then they quit, or they dissolve and they leave no blueprints, nothing, no way for anyone to imitate them. I mean, they come and they're gone. Poof, just amazing. And, if you want to know more about Elaine May, you should go back and listen to our first and I want to say 20th episode. I think that was it. And some others. We've got others. There's others. Yeah. I'm sorry. I've forgotten already. But what happens though for Nichols is that when Nichols and May disbands and they go their separate ways, he falls into directing on Broadway, which falls into his nice, he gets this incredible opportunity to do that. And he does, Barefoot in the Park and The Knack and The Odd Couple. And then he transitions into filmmaking and directing in film with Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf in 1966. And this is really like, everyone's like, who is this Mike Nichols? People are calling him the new Orson Welles. They love him. He's being crowned. It's like the #1 film of 1966. It won 5 Academy Awards. It was nominated for 13. It's just this big seminal work.
Yeah.
And then he does The Graduate a year later.
There you go.
We can't talk about everything, guys, but
he has a good eye.
He's got a lot going on. Then he, not everything he makes is great. I like Catch-22, which was made in 1970. Not everyone likes that. Tough book to adapt. Another book that was adapted into a series. He did Day of the Dolphin in 1973. Fortune, 1975. He directed Gilda Live, which I guess was a documentary about Gilda Radner in 1980. Did Silkwood, also with Meryl Streep, 1983. Heartburn, Biloxi Blues, Working Girl, which we mentioned. Regarding Henry, Wolf, The Birdcage, which Elaine May scripted, Primary Colors, same deal.
Gotcha.
Then What Planet Are You From, which I believe was a Gary Shandling. I believe that was a bit not a great one, I don't think. He did Closer in 2004. I did not remember that, but I totally saw that movie.
Yeah.
It's basically like 4 actors, no one else almost.
Yeah.
Anyway, he did that. And then the last film he made was Charlie Wilson's War. And he also did some he won Emmys because he did directing for, I think it was Angels in America and Wit.
Gotcha.
He did all that.
He got to work with Meryl again.
Yep, got to work with Meryl again, exactly. He's also, he has an EGOT. This guy has 2 Emmys, 1 Grammy, 1 Oscar, and 8 Tonys.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And those are his wins. His nominations would be
even more extensive.
Well, 2 Emmys, 3 Grammys, 5 Oscars, and 16 Tonys.
Yeah.
Anyway, the guy is, you may have heard of him.
Yeah, he's pretty prolific.
You may have heard of him. I think, oh my God, that might be the end of that.
Yeah.
I think, we can talk about.
I think that's enough.
Who's your best supporting player?
Definitely Gene Hackman.
I love that you said that.
Yeah, definitely.
Tell me why.
He's great. He was great. He was that perfect amount of, a little bit humorous, kind of a sharp dick, but he's also empathetic.
Yeah.
And I think that there's actually like a really nice moment when she's re-recording the lines at the end, and there's this redemption, you know, like I think he sees her showing up and like is receptive to that.
Yeah.
And I found that was what really took it. That's what won that best supporting for me.
Yeah.
I think, you know, I loved those. Oh, that first, I liked that dynamic he had on the set. And then I like how stern he gets with her. And I like seeing those different, I think there was, I think he shows some, maybe, I don't know if range is the right word, but I think that there's definitely, I liked that relationship we got to see between her and between that director and Suzanne.
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm struggling to come up with a better nomination. I don't think I have one, honestly.
Oh man. Well,
I mean, I
don't know. You like the grandma? I would say
I did like the
supporting.
grandma. That's true. Mary Wicks. Yeah, we'll give it to grandma.
Strong sitcom energy.
I'll put mine over grandma. Yeah, I mean, I think that's, you know, you're right. He's in maybe 2-3 scenes, and he communicates such a full character. You know,
I think it's a reflection. It makes sense with Mike Nichols, where he shows this director, and I think feeling now that this might have been his opportunity to vent some things, and it's like, if you fuck up this movie, I'll kill you,
right?
You know, and at the same time, you know, I think, and the very fact that Mike Nichols is working with this story and I think. It's almost like Gene Hackman's character is reflecting or manifesting that level of empathy that is in this project.
No, that's so true. And I mean, the thought that like...
Maybe I'm putting too much weight to it.
I mean, I like the thought of Gene Hackman as a stand-in for Mike Nichols in a way. Like, not precisely, but... Like,
I know it's not, you know,
not, right.
That's the tricky dynamic of this film. You can't make this...
And
like,
Carrie Fisher
it's not
wrote it. Like, she didn't...
For beat.
Yeah, she didn't... I don't think she... Well, maybe she did, but I don't believe she wrote it in mind with all of Mike Nichols' baggage in mind.
Right,
I mean,
but then he as a director comes
and they were
in.
working together. I don't know. I guess I just I mean, it's almost like through Gene Hackman, if he didn't get to have, because it's not just redemption for her, it's also for him. It's like that was tough love, or that was me respecting you enough to not have tolerance for this,
right?
Like, you know, and you're right, like and I do remember feeling like a plant that had been watered or something, you know, the way he nurtured her. I was like, oh, that's where she will get. And that wonderful, like, not that her family's totally a mess, but, you know, when you don't have a great relationship with your own family, maybe the kind of validation you get from those people you collaborate with, especially in creative professions, that becomes kind of, you know, an important family of a kind. Like, you think very fondly of those people. And Mike Nichols is a director who was very well thought of and very
You have to be a good communicator, and you have to understand the emotions of the actor as like a person.
Oh, yeah.
In that moment, I think. And
they need to trust you, or they're not going to be able to give you what you need. You know, and it does seem like people really trust him.
Also supporting nod to this was when I, again, one of those moments where I'm like, oh yeah, this feels very like this is gonna be at times a little jokey, this movie. When she's veering off from Dennis Quaid's place, and the gardener like does this very cartoonish kind of jump out of her way and goes, "Huera loca," and it's like there's moments like that in this movie that, like, again, if you were expecting this to be a more raw, like, especially Shirley, if you're expecting like a terms of endearment,
definitely not that,
or Steel Magnolia, or so, like some very or more melodrama by way of like Mommy Dearest, even though that is a funny movie, but in a different way. This is intentional comedy.
It is intentional comedy. You're right, and I'm pleased that it's a comedy, because I think some of the jokes are so great, you know. And
I mean, even when she's getting her stomach pumped, right? She's this is again, like, you don't expect this to be like a dramatically cathartic movie about, you know, drug abuse and addiction and the industry and toxic relationships with family, because it's not going to give you that. In a sense, it's almost like a reprieve from that kind of storytelling. I think this is a nice, like,
it's kind of
like,
it's cynical without being like sad.
I think, yeah, it's
You
pretty.
know,
It's fairly optimistic, actually. It's cynical. Like there's those the biz type humor throughout, but there is a bit of this optimistic ending of like her career continues. Her mother and her continue to have a strong relationship.
And Suzanne is like, although she's struggling with this issue, but everybody gets to know about it.
Yeah.
And, there's so many cruel moments where, you're reminded of how the actor is treated like a piece of meat. I mean, when she overhears the wardrobe and producer talking about, oh, she's got all this cellulite and her. I mean,
they could have really taken you into a dark place with all of that, and they didn't. And they keep it pretty.
I mean, it has this darkness, but it's so funny that you brought up Fleabag earlier because, that is a show that has so much darkness, but it's like, but the cutting wit is what like saves you from it. And I think Carrie Fisher's definitely operating in a really similar way.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely some sort of refinement and reiteration of that is shown in Fleabag.
Yeah,
dealing with it, being a character who is treated as unlikable or liable or a fuck up continually makes mistakes, but then we through her like fourth wall break, and we don't have that kind of fourth wall break in this, but I feel like if like a hackneyed version, hackneyed version of Postcards would be that.
Yeah. Or she'd be writing postcards because they would take it too literal.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know.
I think one review a mean review said something about how like, oh yeah, this was bright and gestural, so exactly like a postcard. Just like a cheap cliche. What did they say?
I don't think that's fair.
I don't think it's fair.
I don't think that's
either.
Fair.
No, it's
I
not.
think if anything, this is sort of I feel like this is like an empathetic and still self-aware process and laugh about how this world what this life is like, and how the world can be. I think it's actually like a optimistic response to that kind of world and treatment. Like, and Carrie Fisher too, again, part of what makes her so beloved now is having gone through that experience of like sort of disgracing yourself or whatever, or being going through that experience of being kind of purged by the industry or being, treated as this sort of, fuck up or whatever, and being able for her to have that ability to kind of push through that and to find the humor in that and not let that, I guess, break her in a sense.
Well, yeah, it's interesting how,
but she also doesn't treat it like she's some kind of warrior either. I love that about her too. She's like, I'm not like this survivor. It's like, no, I did this stupid shit, or I did this thing, and I'm willing to look at it in the face.
The conversation she has upon, Suzanne has with the doctor upon waking from, having your stomach pumped and this, whatever. And it's, she's very real about like, no, I took it. Yes, I wanted to feel this. And then, and then I didn't. And for her to kind of be like, but I never was this close to dying.
Like, and I also appreciate that too in the story. Like,
there's a new gravity.
The idea of this character, Suzanne's perspective being such where she's not, I think a movie like this could have been made much darker or a lot more introspective and pain, like showing all of this just like, oh, she's about to crack. Oh, she's so fragile. Oh,
right.
Oh, she's got a smile, but it's fading. Like it could have gone that route. But I think that this is a very honest way of looking at it. Mm-hmm. Be someone, Suzanne being this character who didn't go in intentionally wanting to end her life, on that night that she was just, doing all of these drugs with Dennis Quaid, and drinking, and you see this comically large bag of weed, and like there's the prescription, like we see all that stuff, but when she's being confronted about like, oh, this is like suicidal behavior, and it's like, well, there is a sort of, I just didn't like, I don't know, I guess people want to always go into that like, you wanted to die, you wanted just, like, well, no. It's like, no, I was just trying to have a good time. I don't know, I guess that there's something I like about that, because it's refreshing to hear, I think, like, not to get too personal, but going through my own addiction treatment, it's like everything is always so sensitive and handhold and like you know, there's this deep-seated trauma and you were triggered in that moment and that's why you socially went over the limit. It's like, well, actually, I thought I was funny and I wanted to be funnier. Like, you know, I was just like, you know, sometimes people don't want to hear the simplicity of what makes a person
absolutely
do stupid things. You know, it's almost frustratingly annoying when for other people to hear you say like, I just wanted to feel good. Like, you know.
No, and literally, again, I keep referring to this interview. It was Larry King Live from 1990 with Carrie Fisher. It's online. Go watch it. It's a great interview. She has very similar sentiments when he's asking her questions like,
you were driven to your edge.
How did you become an addict, or how did that happen? And she's
were you abused? You were neglected. You were this, and it's like, and that stuff's not true.
No, but she's saying something to the effect of like, no, I wanted to take the drugs. Like, I didn't. She's like, they feel good. And to me, it looked like medicine. And
like
the idea that like, I'm going to take this and then I'm going to feel better. Like,
I think it's refreshing and maybe a little controversial for people to unpack that aspect of the use being something that is not perceived as by the addict's mind who this is just a fun thing, or this is just, you know, and that makes it dangerous. There is something more insidious about that.
Oh, absolutely.
In a certain aspect, in a certain light.
I mean, Carrie Fisher and John Belushi, right, were like, they were close, and like, he's like, you're like me, you know, in the way that they would just go hard at it.
It's like, just when you find that a gear in the car,
exactly,
like, that mindset.
Yeah, and this again, the same interview. I know I keep saying it, but you know, it's also like, you know, and Larry King was Larry King. You know how he is. He's kind of oafish about his questions sometimes, but there was something about the way he was posing it all as if it was in the past. You know, like this is all a thing that you no longer do or never don't. Not that, you know, like you don't struggle with this now. You know, I mean, he didn't say it like that, but that was certainly the subtext. And you know, of course, we know that
your life
that was,
story thing.
Yeah,
you know?
And of course, that wasn't the end of it for her. Right. We all know. You know, and you know, it's interesting to watch her face, and you get the sense like, I know I have to say the right thing here. Yeah, but I also know that
it doesn't work like that either.
No, exactly. And again, it was 1990, different ideas. We've come, it's quite a different world now. Yeah. But I mean, 30 years difference. But it was a really interesting interview, quite a time capsule. Yeah. And also every caller and everybody's like, you look great. As if that's the most important thing. Everyone's like, and you know, she said something really interesting.
Which not much has changed in that capacity.
I know, sadly. Yeah. She clearly was amused by it though. She was like, kind of pulling faces.
Like, so it makes it easy to like you see where the satire is like that awareness of
yes,
it.
Because she
feels constantly removed from.
She was churned up in the Hollywood blender. She knows about perception. She knows about what it means to. She talks about how talk shows are bizarre or whatever. Right. But he posed this kind of question. Like somebody asked about confidence and kind of like, you know, and the Larry King's like, right, you know, you had money and you had this and you had, you know, you look like your mother. What could be right? She's like, right. What could I be possibly wrong? Right. My life. Yeah, I know. She's like, I understand the question. She's like, but it's not about what you're given in life. It's how you take it. Yeah. And I'm like, ooh, wow. Put that on a shirt. Yeah. Please.
It's so spot on.
Yeah. So, all this is to say, you know, I know she's passed, but long live Carrie Fisher.
Absolutely.
You know,
yes.
What a great work. Just an enjoyable movie.
My princess, my general.
Just a great movie too. I mean, I really enjoyed this. It didn't drag for a second. It was funny. It was
such a quick watch. It was so zippy.
So zippy.
I can't be mad at that either. I'm sorry. Like I was engaged the whole time too. So
Not bored.
That's like, you can't, even if, like I get the criticisms of Roger Ebert, but like I can't deny I had a good time watching this, and so I think it achieves. I also quite a bit,
and I'm not going to attribute this to his gender, but there was a certain presumptuousness on the part of certain critics who happen to be men. About kind of like, oh, this really fell apart for me as soon as it started to be about the mother and daughter.
And I wonder how much of that had to do with any sort of these projections we've been talking about, and I appreciate your attempt at finding more female centric reviews. Maybe on Letterboxd there'll be
honestly, that would be the better place to go.
More a modern.
I think what I'm usually doing
woman's lens.
No, and like it's true. I normally am just trying to find things from then, but it does mean that
It's good. It's good at the time, seeing how it was received, and it is a sign of the times too.
No, you're right. But there were some really good contemporary critics. I mean,
this kind of response, and then her being in an interview, and they're like, "You look great. You look great."
Know.
So like
exactly.
Like I just can't. It's like good for her at the same time to
it's
laugh.
It's good in spite of all of that misinterpretation.
Not to belittle any of the pain that she was to have gone through, because that is a through line too. There is a void of some kind to be filled with youth. Yeah. But like,
and I mean, Carrie Fisher's entire life is just it's not a normal life,
right?
You know,
right?
It's just not a normal life.
It's all the privileges aside, and
that can fuck you up worse sometimes. You know? Like, I mean, I'm not. Listen, I would love, I'd love to have a trust fund, but I also think being, again, what she said,
it's living in a.
You can grow to resent yourself a lot more if you're born with all that shit.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine her being the daughter of these juggernauts of Hollywood, and just being constantly put on display.
Yep.
And then all of these assumptions of what she will turn out to be, or what she ought to turn out to be.
Yeah.
And then even when you do work hard and achieve things, that being sort of like, oh, well, it's nepotism, or I don't know. I guess I'm not trying to defend all the nepotism babies out there, but I think there is that. I think
it's a more complicated story, perhaps, than just like, oh, your mama was famous. Like, that's its own struggle. Like, I would not want to be John Lennon's son. You know what I mean? Like, oh God, like what a horrible. I'm sorry, Julian and the other guy.
Oh man,
Sean. No. It's Sean.
Yeah,
it's Sean.
okay.
I remember.
That's
Julian
fine.
and Sean. Whatever. They're not listening.
That's no, but I get it. I get what you're saying.
You get what
you're saying.
Or it's like being Jacob Dylan. Bob Dylan's son.
Sure.
You make one good hit with the Wallflowers, and that's it.
Yeah, I believe that.
One headlight.
Oh, okay. You just wanted to sing that. I guess just say you wanted to say, okay, Victoria, we can end with a song.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It just twirled up. Thank you for listening. You can follow us on social media at Fresh Movie Pod, Letterboxd, Instagram, Twitter. You can email us at abreathoffreshmovie@gmail.com.
And don't say you don't know anything about Mike Nichols after this episode, you guys.
Yeah, I didn't even get into his Arabian horse collection. Okay.
Oh my God.
Which is a real thing. That's not a joke. Then that's it.